Let's not talk about how big the enemy is, how big the giant is. Greater is he that's in me than he that's in the world. Start saying that about yourself. Greater is he that's in me than he is in the world. Oh, you start talking that way about yourself, start seeing yourself that way, you will start doing big things when you stop seeing yourself so small. Welcome once again to Think Like a Champion, a podcast dedicated to helping you win in every way and enjoy every day. Now, before we dive into today's content, I want to thank everyone that likes or subscribes, comments, and shares this podcast. In fact, right now, whatever platform you're on, please subscribe to the podcast, YouTube, Apple, Spotify. And if there's an area to leave a comment or leave a review, I would love to hear from you. Let me know what you're getting out of Think Like a Champion podcast. You're making a difference as a part of our community of champions, and that's what we're building, a community of champions. Now, I'm going to pick up talking about vision, and I shared a verse with you last time from Proverbs 29, verse 18, and God says, "For where there is no vision, people perish." Now, it's not about perishing eternally, but the word there is actually used run aimlessly. Where there is no vision, people run aimlessly. If you're running here and running there, you're not able to focus your strength, your speed, your energy on going in a certain direction because there's no vision. So you run aimlessly. Another translation says you will live without restraints. In other words, you won't harness your life. You won't operate in self-control because there's no vision to make sure all of your energy is going towards that vision. Self-control, self-government, being able to master yourself, to master your body and master your emotions becomes so much easier when you know what the vision is on the other side of mastering your emotions. Like, for example, on the other side of mastering your emotions, you could become a great author. You could become a great motivational speaker. You could become a teacher. You could become a coach, a life coach. Like, on the other side of mastering your emotions, you could show people how to master their emotions. And people want to learn how to do that all the time. If you master your money, you'll be someone who can then help other people master their money. If you master your health, see, it bothers me when people that don't have money are talking to people about how to have money. Clearly, you should do the opposite of whatever they say. That's why they don't have any. Or somebody that says, I want to be your fitness coach, but they're not fit themselves. Without being fit, without having the nest or the fit with the nest, that is not a person to follow. A person who says they're a trained coach or they have all the credentials of being a fitness coach, but they're not at their best. That's not somebody to follow. Now, I'm not saying that they're a bad person. They're just not worthy of emulating. Be a person. Here's a great vision to start your life with. Be a person worthy of emulating. Be a person worthy of emulating. Be a person that somebody looks at and says, that guy or that girl, I want to be like that. I want to be like that. That's what it means to emulate. It's not to worship somebody. It's not to, idolize somebody. It's to emulate. It's like, wow, that is a person worthy of emulating. The way a person treats others, the way a person handles their business, the way a person speaks, the way a person leads. These are things that we have to make ourselves into a person worthy of being emulated. Because if you're not worthy of being emulated, you cannot be a leader. You can't be a leader if you're not going somewhere that people want to go. So lead yourself, then lead others, and then lead leaders. That's the process. Vision starts with how you see God, and we talked a little bit about that last time, and you got to learn from the Bible and go into a healthy church to really get the fullness of how big God is and how loving he is and how powerful he is and how almighty he is. He's the only one. There is no other gods. Anything else is just something man makes. But God didn't make himself or wasn't made by man. He always has existed and he always will. So how you see yourself is the next thing you got to do in order to begin to have a great vision for your life. How do you see yourself? If you see yourself small, if you see yourself insignificant, you're going to have a small, insignificant vision for your life. How you see yourself directly is connected to what kind of achievement and accomplishment your life will be filled with. There were 12 spies that Moses sent out to scout out the promised land. And 10 of those spies came back with an evil report, and 2 of them came back with a good report. Now notice what good versus evil was. What happened there in Numbers chapter 13, Numbers chapter 14, the ones that came back with an evil report, this is what was evil about it. They said, we saw the giants in the land, and we became like grasshoppers in our own sight. We saw how big they were, and we saw how small we were. That God calls evil. Some people think, now there's a lot of evils out in this world. Hurting somebody, killing somebody, be violent or hateful towards somebody, that's evil. We know that's evil. But most people don't know that seeing yourself small and seeing yourself like a grasshopper is evil. It's not only false humility, it's just plain evil. Because God made you in his image. And greater is he that is in you than he that's in the world. And God made you in his image. That means you're a chip off the old block. It means that how as great as he is, you are made in that image. And you have to make war with every idea in your head and every picture in your mind of being less than made in God's image. To see yourself. So the 2 spies that said, no, we should by all means scout out the land, they didn't talk about how big the giants were. They talked about how big the fruit was. They talked about how big the grapes were. They said it takes 2 men to carry 1 cluster of grapes. How many of you have gone to the grocery store lately and had a hard time picking up the grapes? Nobody, right? Why? Because they're very light and anybody can pick them up with 2 fingers. But this cluster of grapes that these guys brought back and saw, they saw grapes, a grape cluster of grapes that were as big as a man that 2 people had to hold to carry. That's coming back with a good report. It doesn't matter how big the giants were. Let's talk about how big the fruit is. Let's talk about how big those dang grapes are. Let's talk about how big the victories are. Let's talk about how big our success and impact can be. Let's not talk about how big the enemy is, how big the giant is. Greater is he that's in me than he that's in the world. Start saying that about yourself. Greater is he that's in me than he is in the world. Oh, you start talking that way about yourself, start seeing yourself that way, you will start doing big things when you stop seeing yourself so small. Now, I'm not saying that we should see ourselves big compared to others. We're not trying to be bigger than somebody else. We're trying to be bigger and greater than who we were yesterday. We're trying to be bigger and greater than who we were last year. We're trying to be greater and have more of a vision for our life and see ourselves better than how we saw ourselves a month ago, a year ago, 10 years ago, etc. The secret is to get and hold fast in your mind a mental image of who God made you to be in his image, the new you. It's seeing yourself as the born-again child of God. The old things have passed away and all things have become new. It's seeing yourself like that. The secret is to keep that image in your mind of a person who's been born again and his past has been forgiven. A person who God said is made in his image. You are made in God's image. And the person that you would most like to be, the person that you would admire most. You can carve yourself. You can create yourself to be that kind of person. God's doing it inside of you, but you have a part too. Philippians chapter 2, verse 12 is a great verse about this. It says, working out your salvation with respect, with fear and trembling. It means with awe and with respect that God put something great inside of you. He said, you got to work that out. God put it inside of you. He said, working out your salvation with fear and trembling, for God who is in you and what God is doing in you, God wants you to take what's in you and then bring it out of you. Okay? So, and here's how to do this now. Now, get a mental picture of the person that God said is new, a new creature. You are not a cursed failure. You are a blessed success going somewhere to make an impact. You are a new person. The old is gone. You're a new person. Number one, you you're who God said you are. Number 2, you're made in God's image. And number 3, get a picture of what kind of person would you want to be that others would admire? What kind of person would you admire? Like I've said in my life, there are times where I'm not really proud of what I did. I'm not really proud of the person I was at that time. But to get to a point where you can say about yourself, I'm proud of the person that I've become. It's not a pride. It's not an arrogant pride. It's a self-respect form. It's not the evil form, the demonic form of pride. But like when I'm proud of my children, proud of what God has done in their lives, or proud of what God has done in my life or through my life, that's not a bad pride. That's like a thankful gratitude of what God has done. It's giving honor to where honor is due, to giving God all the glory. But if you could take that person is made in God's image and see that and burn that, imprint that in your mind, then in every situation you act. Now listen, this is how to bring this vision to pass of your better self. In every situation, act and talk and make decisions as you feel that person would make. So if you were, like, just using a sports analogy, if you were trying to be Michael Jordan, like you're trying to imitate him, for example, what would he say? What would he do? How would he act on the basketball court and off the basketball court? Start thinking like that. Start acting like that. What would a hero who built a great business empire out of nothing because he just or she just wanted to help hurting, broken people, what actions would that person take? What decisions would that person make? And what habits would that person form? Whatever those things are that that person would do those things. It's really simple. The Bible says that the difference between the person who survived when the tornado hit and when the storms hit, and the person whose house survives and the person whose house is destroyed, it's what they did with what they heard. It's not what they heard, because they both heard the same thing. It's what they did with what they heard. The one acted on what he heard, and the one did not act on what he heard. And that's the difference between a house built on sand versus a house built on the rock of God's word, the rock of action, really. This is the way to constantly grow. Confidence will start coming to you, and confidence is the first step to accomplishments. When you have confidence, you'll have accomplishments. Not confidence in your own self-righteousness. Confidence in who God made you to be. Confidence in you being made in the image of God. Real confidence will make you grow, and it'll take you to the places in life where you can't imagine yet. And it simply happens by beginning to act. You'll immediately begin to act with more confidence, and you'll begin to have more accomplishments when you start thinking and acting like the person you would admire most. Now listen, that doesn't happen overnight. But over time, day by day, if you consistently perform those exact habits and thoughts and actions as the person you admire most, over time, you will grow into that person that you want to become. This is how every expert has succeeded in their field. And by the way, you have nothing to lose, because the time is going to pass anyway. So between now and 5 years from now, the time is going to pass anyway. So why not think of the person that you would most want to be like and become that person? Become that person by thinking how that person would think. We know we role play. What would my dad do? Or what would my mom do? Or what would that teacher, that's funny, what would that person do? We kind of put ourselves in other people's shoes, or we put their shoes on us, and we say, well, what would that person do? How would that person respond to this? People that have had loved ones that have gone home to be with the Lord, that they admired and respected, they might say, what would my grandfather say about this situation? What would my mom, who's died and gone to heaven, what would she think about this? How would she react to this? Now, are you seeing what I'm saying? We're doing that anyway, so we might as well do that with the highest standard we can imagine. And then we will eventually be that person who's living at that highest standard that we can imagine. You can become that person, and you can give that person to this world in the service of others, because living in the service of others is the only life worth living. So what we have to do is we have to begin to envision that and have a vision for that and see ourselves that way. And then we have to answer the question, what are our habits now? What habits are we going to perform? What habits are we going to adopt? Now, I know that habits sometimes is kind of is dismissive of Christianity sometimes. We think habits in Christianity don't jive, but they do. Because reading your Bible needs to be a habit. Talking to God needs to be a habit. Being a loving person needs to be a habit. Forgiving people needs to be a habit. Prayer needs to be a habit. Fasting can be a habit. Disciplining yourself, your body, your mind, your thoughts, these are all most successful when they're habits. These are most powerful and most effective when they are habits, not just, I decided in the offering I was going to throw something in. I'm usually not generous, but today I decided that's not going to help you. That might help the people that are going to use that for good, but it'll only help you when it becomes a habit. Going to the gym once a week it's not going to help you. In this case, less is not more. In this case, you have to identify what habits will create, what rituals, what routines will create and form the life that you are envisioning. You can't have a vision for one thing and then your habits be incongruent with that vision. If your habits are incongruent or not equal to that vision, then you have the wrong habits or you have the wrong vision. I want you to think about that for a moment. This is where most people have a disconnect in life. This is why most people fail. Number one, they're trying to create habits without a vision of what they want to be at the end of those, at the ultimate end of those habits. What do you want to be the outcome? Or they have this big vision, and they're always talking about the big dream and the big vision, something great that they're going to do in life, but they don't have any habits that match that great vision. There's nothing bad about having a great vision, but it's bad if you're not willing to form the habits that will create that vision. Don't you see, this is why some people succeed and some people don't? It's not lottery. It's not gambling. It's not by chance or luck. It's by habit. The people that had the most success, the people in life that have the most success are the people that have the best habits that are congruent with that vision and with the great life that they imagine they can have. You know, some of the habits in my life are speaking to God, talking to God, praying in tongues, being grateful. You might say, well, I don't want to adopt that habit. You don't have to. I'm just saying that those are a part of my life, and I've made them my rituals. Exercise is part of but prayer is first. Exercise is a part of it too, though, and speaking life is a part of my routine. Speaking life, investing money, being generous with my money, being a giver, but also being smart with my investments. That's a habit. Do hard things. That's another habit I have in my life. I choose to do hard things. I choose to lift heavy weights. I had a goal. I don't say this, I guess it's just going to be thought of as bragging no matter what. But I'm 60, so I don't really care what anybody thinks about me. So I want to say this to inspire you, not because I'm bragging about myself. But my goal was by the time I turned 60, I wanted to deadlift over 400 pounds. And I was getting there. When I was 59, I was close. I got to 315 and I think 365 or 375 pounds. And then I wanted to get to where I had four 45-pound plates on both sides of a bar. In this case, it was a hexagon bar that you stand in the middle of, right? versus the bar that is in the middle, which I do those things too, with lesser weights. But it was my goal to hit 405 pounds, which is 4 plates plus the bar, and I hit 415 pounds on my birthday as a 60-year-old, and my wife was there, and she recorded it. She recorded it by accident because I tried 405 and I failed. About 10 minutes later, I saw this other guy doing it, and I'm like, dude, how much weight is that? And he's like, I think it's 415 pounds. I said, did you lift it? He said, yeah, 5 times. Now, he's 25 years old, and was a semi-professional basketball player. So, I'm not making excuses. But when I saw him do it, I'm like, would you just mind if I just step in and try to do the same weight you just did? He's like, no, go ahead, try it. Sure enough, I got down, and I thought I had hit an immovable object. That this thing was not going to move, but I didn't care what I thought. I only cared what I promised myself I was going to do, and I did it. And I'm not saying that to brag, because you have to build up towards that. And please don't do something that's unhealthy or that you're not prepared for. I had all the right equipment, et cetera, et cetera. And I had already been doing lesser weights that were close to that amount. But I'm saying, if you will do hard things, that was a hard thing for me. It's a hard thing for me to have to confront people sometimes. A hard thing for me to have to correct people sometimes. That's hard for a leader, a pastor. Some people say they want feedback until you give them feedback. Some people say they will not be offended until they're offended. Everybody says, oh, I won't be offended. I'm not like that, until they're offended. It's hard to talk to people that are offended and that are going to be offended if you say something. But you got to do hard things. It's hard to apologize sometimes. It's very hard. And it's having a difficult conversation is something you should make a part of your regular life. We should stop trying to make our lives so comfortable. We have to do hard things. Don't do the minimum. Don't do what's easy. Anybody can do that. Most people do that. Be unlike most people. Share your faith with somebody. That's hard. Tell somebody about Jesus. That's hard. It's hard sometimes. It's very hard if you don't know a lot of scripture, you haven't had a lot of experience, but maybe you could just go up to somebody one time at your workplace or at your school or in your community and just say, would you mind if I prayed for you? I noticed that that you're struggling. We all struggle. I just noticed you're struggling with something, and I just want to offer, could I just pray with you? And or could I just pray for you? Would that be okay? Like, ask somebody. Most times they'll say, yeah, sure. And then you can pray for them, and that could lead to, hey, why did you come over and pray for me? Well, something in my heart just was saying to come over there and talk to you. That's the same way to meet new people, because so many people just are comfortable with the people that they've always had in their life. And you should do hard things by meeting new people. I'm an introvert. I'm not an extrovert. I'm an introvert. I'm not, like, I am naturally antisocial, naturally. So I have to work hard at being social. I'm not saying that I'm making some sacrifice. I'm just saying it's contrary to my own personality that I've grown to learn about myself. But I can retrain myself, and I'm retraining myself to be a better person socially, to be better at asking. And how you can become better is to start asking other people questions. I'm trying to say that doing hard things is needs to be a routine in your life. It needs to be a part of the ritual of your habits of everyday life. Investing into others and investing money into good things. These are also habits that you should have in your life. Encourage somebody today, because by doing so, you're investing in them. These are some of the habits. Learning something new, reading something new every day. Not just Instagram, not just TikTok, not just this social media. You got to read good books by great authors. Start with this book by the greatest author of all. And then you have to have the habit of being honest with yourself. You have to locate yourself. You have to say, you know what? On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm not a 1 and I'm not a 10 right now. My life is not a 1, it's not a 10. But I can honestly say, my life, this is what we all need to do, I can honestly say my life is about a 6. Or say, honestly, 6 is generous. I'm probably at a 4 in my life, the way I handle myself. And really, there's just a few things that you have to be able to master in your life. If I could just close this out by saying, a man or a woman who can govern these 4 things is a person that will rise to the top. If you can govern your temper, if you can govern your tongue, if you can govern your appetite, and you can govern your spending, you'll rise to the top in life. If you will get a hold of those things, govern your temper, that's your emotions. Govern your tongue, that's your words. Govern your appetite, that's what goes in you. And govern your money, govern your spending. You will rise to the top if you're a good governor of those things. Now, everybody governs those things. They're just bad at it, and they don't even know it. But you have to deliberately become great at governing those things in your life. You will rise to the top. You'll have mastery of yourself. And the person who can master himself can master just about anything in life. You say, is this really a biblical thing? Yes, Proverbs 16 says that better is a man who rules over his own spirit than one who captures a city. One who rules over his appetites, one who rules over his tongue, one who rules over his temper, one who rules over his money. Better is that person than one who captures a city. Make these habits that I've shared with you, make them your habits, and at least evaluate and be honest with yourself where you're at with those habits, and pick and choose the ones that help get you congruent with the person that you want to be, or get congruent with being like Christ, being Christ-like. That's a great goal. Well, I'm out of time for today. Thanks for joining me on today's Think Like a Champion. Subscribe wherever you're watching and however you're listening. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify, wherever you're watching or listening. And leave a rating or review or a comment if you got something out of this today. And pay it forward. I want to invite you to pay it forward. Partner with me. What does that mean? Partner with me. Donate towards this not-for-profit organization that is our church, that will help us build this champion, this culture and community of champions. Let's reach more people. Your partnership will help to reach so many more and help them become a part of this community of champions. And I'm committed to bringing you more and more value on Think Like a Champion. And if you get something out of it, consider partnering with me to help expand our community of champions. It doesn't go to me, it goes towards expanding our reach to others. And you can partner with me by going to lifechangerschurch.com/give, lifechangerschurch.com/give. And I want to thank you in advance for doing that. Now, in closing, let me just say one last thing. When we locate ourselves, it doesn't mean we stay there. It means that's our point of reference from that platform that we're now going to improve and attack in our lives to become the best that God created us to be. Okay? God bless you, and keep thinking like a champion, and everything's going to be all right. God bless.